How's it hanging, everybody? So today we're talking about a stellar 2021 from Nintendo. I would argue it's stellar because there are so many good casual games that have come out this year. And really, that's kind of the roots of what Nintendo really is. I mean, Nintendo got their start in the arcades and with things like the Game & Watches, so they're no stranger to the space of casual video games. They also have their big properties, their Zeldas, their Marios, the Pokemons, things like that. But then there's also these more casual, more approachable offerings for the general player, somebody who might not always play video games, somebody, games that you can pick up and play easily. They could be from any real genre of game, and that's what we're focused on today. We're focused on those kinds of titles, offerings from Nintendo this year. And without further ado, let's get into this stellar lineup. You could make an argument that Nintendo's had a bit of a slow year for their big titles, but you can't make that argument about what we're about to talk about today. So without further ado, let's get into our first entry. That is Pac-Man 99. This is a game that is exclusive to the Nintendo Switch Online service. It is published and developed by Bandai Namco. This is a battle royale retro game, much like Tetris 99, much like Super Mario Bros. 35, RIP. And this game does all of the right things that it should do for this kind of approach or this kind of a concept. For a Pac-Man game to be a battle royale, this is what you would want. It does all the same things that Tetris 99 does. It may even go a little further than Tetris 99 just in terms of like changing up the gameplay, making it a little more unique, but still keeping that classic charm of Tetris and that classic challenge. It's all here. So casual arcade game, classic game. Everybody's first game that they ever played is Pac-Man. Even my 7-year-old nephew, that's the first game he ever played, I believe. So this is a casual game that offers a ton of depth, like any good casual game would. You want that depth for those who want to actually go seek it out. So without further ado, this one's great. I like it. Let's get into the next entry, and that would be New Pokemon Snap. This game is a sequel to the original game from 20 years ago, Pokemon Snap, on the N64. And it's basically the same game, just with a new skin, and I have no problem with that because the formula the first time was really fun. It's a game on rails, basically feels like a Disney ride, and you move your camera around in any direction you want. You can take a picture of any Pokemon that is around you. And you can manipulate these Pokemon by throwing different objects into their environment, having them interact with those. You can get different poses and things like that. So you kind of get a grade for each photo, and you can turn those in, submit them, and then try to go for higher and higher scores. So there's tons of replay value here, but in terms of casual games, you can't really get more casual than this. I mean, this is a very, very easygoing, full-on chillaxin type of experience, and it has the wonderful familiarity for many of you of Pokemon, so there's a lot to love here. I personally really like New Pokemon Snap. I haven't put a ton of time into it, but I'm kind of purposely taking it really slow. It's not like I'm gonna forget how to play it, so I pick it up every now and then, and I chip away at it, and eventually I'll beat the game and do some post-game stuff and stuff like that, but I'm in no hurry, because why would I be? Next up, we have Metopia. This is a game from, obviously, Nintendo. It's a last-gen game. It came out on the 3DS, so I'm not giving any awards to Nintendo for giving us last-gen's game, but this is a game that, it makes me want more 3DS games on the Switch because it just looks great. Like, they did so many cool things with the textures, with the color of the game is beautiful. It really pops on that Nintendo display, probably even more so on the OLED. And it's just a colorful, wonderful, super casual JRPG. I assume it's a super casual JRPG. I can't really say that for sure. That's just as an outsider looking in what it looks like. But I have not picked this one up yet. I'm not sure that I will, just because there's so many other games on this list to spend time with, and so many games in general to spend time with. This one's not necessarily really piquing my fancy, but I've considered buying it. I have rules about what JRPGs I want to spend time with. I have a very rigid bucket list of games I want to get through, and this is just not on that list, so I'll probably pass on this one, but I do think it's a really cool offering, and I know that probably a ton of people have had a lot of fun with this title. Next up, we're looking at Game Builder Garage. Now, if you're saying, hey, that's not a casual game at all, this game has tons of depth and complexity, you're absolutely right. If you are using this title to design games, which is kind of what it's for, then of course there's tons of complexity there. It is not a casual experience if you're designing the levels. It's approachable, it's accessible, that's what it's designed to be, but it's not casual. The casual side of things comes if you're playing the user-made content, which is why I bought this title. I did not buy this title to make any games for myself at all. No disrespect to anybody who wants to do that. In fact, that's what we need. We need people making games to actually contribute to the community, keep the community alive, so we get some really cool stuff over the years with Game Builder Garage. And I have a number of games that I have enjoyed, that I've tried out. Simple games, they feel a lot like demos. There's nothing with a lot of complexity that I've played so far, but that's kind of the idea. You know, these are meant to be smaller, simpler experiences. So great for this list. Another really interesting title from Nintendo that kind of taps into this casual game beat that we're talking about here today. Next up, we've got Mario Golf Super Rush. I love Mario Golf. I love it so much. I think my first Mario Golf game was on the GameCube. Since then, I played it on the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and I think the 3DS, yes. This game doesn't reinvent the wheel. In terms of just the core golf gameplay, it does what the other games have done. And that's a little disappointing. They did add some extra stuff like the Super Rush mode where you're basically playing speed golf, running around, playing golf in real time. I'm not really about that. I did beat the story mode on this game. It was a lot of that speed golf. And it's not why I'm here. I'm here to play the core golf experience. Golf to me, golf video games anyway, they feel like a really simple strategy game. You know, you have to get your ball in the hole in a certain number of turns, so it's like turn-based strategy almost. And there's beauty in that, I think, in that simplicity, and that's why I've always loved golf video games, particularly Mario Golf video games. So I'm so happy that we have this title here. And it started out a little low on content, but I think that we'll see that content grow. We've already seen a number of updates. We've got like, New Donk City stuff and stuff like that. So there's more content coming. There will be more tracks, more characters, things like that. So I think it's just a matter of waiting. I think for them, this is a marathon, not a sprint for Nintendo. So very, very happy to have Mario Golf on the Switch. Next up, we have, what do we have? We have Picross S, the Genesis and Master System edition. Now, I cheated a little bit here. This is technically not a Nintendo published title, but it's really close, or feels really close, because Nintendo, I guess, published the first Picross games from this company on Nintendo platforms, because we're talking like, you know, the original Picross S for, what do you call it, Game Boy? I'm sorry, losing my train of thought here. Mario's Picross for Game Boy started this whole series off. Probably the first Picross video game that I'm aware of. And since then, we've had many more Picross titles from this company on Nintendo platforms. And funny fact, if you see a game with Picross in the title on a Nintendo platform, it is almost certainly a Jupiter production. Now, of course, you can buy Picross games all over the place, on mobile, on other platforms, on PC, on the web, things like that. But for my money, I really, really like the Jupiter Picross games more than any of the other aforementioned games, because it's just more classic. It's like these Jupiter games, they go all the way back to Mario Picross, and for me, that's where the good stuff is. And this game just hits a little different because it's got all of this artwork that you're unveiling from the Genesis and Master System catalog of games. Sometimes you can recognize a character. Sometimes you can even recognize an exact moment in a game or an exact object in a game or something like that, which adds a lot of extra fun to this. I've put a ton of time into this version of Picross, and there are a bunch of other ones for the Switch, so if you really like this one, I mean, the good thing about these titles is they really stretch out. I mean, if you do every puzzle in this game, it's going to take you, many hours to do every puzzle, like dozens and dozens of hours, maybe hundreds. So it is quite valuable for the money, a good bang for your buck, and a classic Nintendo experience. So next up, we're going to talk about WarioWare Get It Together. I am so very stoked about WarioWare. You may notice a theme in this video, and that's that many of these franchises I absolutely love. WarioWare is another one. I think that WarioWare is low-key one of my favorite Nintendo franchises. I think this is even higher on the list than Picross and Mario Golf. This one for me is really special. I remember playing WarioWare Touched was my first experience on the DS with the franchise, and I loved the game so much. It was right at a time when I was getting more and more into Japanese culture, and I just loved how unapologetically Japanese and zany and crazy the game was. It's like a game that you would never see come out of North America at that time. And so I'm so glad that the WarioWare franchise is still around. These mini games are so fun. They're so fast paced. They're so weird. The art styles oftentimes looks like they're designed in like MS Paint, which I really love. And they still kept that zany weirdness going. Maybe a little duller than it used to be, but hey, I'm not complaining. I guess the one kind of asterisk I'll put by this game is that I do really wish that they returned to a just standard regular format for the game. Just all you need is a D-pad and an A button and just basic, really well-made mini games. And that's not quite what they did here, because the gimmick of this game is that every mini game is controlled with a very unique character on the screen. And all of these characters have different abilities. Some are really easy to control, some are really hard to control. So that adds to the challenge. And honestly, over time, I've grown to really like that. But ultimately, I do think that it's time for this series to eventually return to its roots. But hey, I am beyond stoked that we have a WarioWare for the Switch. I'm going to be playing this thing for years to come. I love WarioWare. Do I need to say it again? Okay, next up, we're talking about Cruis'n Blast. Cruis'n Blast is a game that is a Nintendo property. The Cruis'n series is a Nintendo property. So anytime, a developer comes out with a Cruis'n game, they have to work with Nintendo, and they have to get licensed by Nintendo. This game was developed by Raw Thrills, and I think also published by Raw Thrills, but weirdly, it's a Nintendo property. Even on the arcade cabinet, which you'll probably see shortly, the Nintendo logo is on it. So this is very much a Nintendo game, or feels like a Nintendo game, or it's a Nintendo adjacent game, however you want to look at it. This is an arcade racer that is zany, over the top, crazy, theatrical, feels like a Disney ride, but instead of like Pokemon Snap, this feels like an insane Disney ride. This is something really special. It originally came out in the arcades in 2017, and it's been ported now to the Switch. We'll probably never see it on a non-Nintendo platform since it is a Nintendo property. But this is apparently runs buttery smooth on the Switch, very few frame drops, especially considering how fast-paced it is. That's really cool. So I really want to check this one out. I just really haven't made time to do that yet. I might wait for this one to go on sale or something before I pick it up off the eShop, but really looking forward to digging into this one someday. Okay, next up we have, what do we have? We have Mario Party Superstars. So admittedly, I'm not a Mario Party person. I've just never really owned a Mario Party game myself. Of course, I've been at house parties when people have played Mario Party, and I've had a good time, but I've never felt compelled to buy one of the titles on my own. But maybe someday I'll pick this one up. I mean, it's mini games. I like mini games. It's good Nintendo fun, and I know that you can kind of play the game single player, I guess, as well. So there's some maybe reasons to pick this up. I just think the actual total number of times that I would actually get people together to play this game, either online or in person, is a really small number, because I don't really play Nintendo games with my friends that much. We're usually on the PC playing stuff or whatever. But it looks really good, and I know the Mario Party fans are gonna really love this, because apparently it's kind of a mishmash of some of the older games and with a new coat of paint, so to speak. So probably a really good entry point to the Mario Party series for those interested. Next up, we're talking about technically not a new game, but it feels a lot like a new game. That is Animal Crossing New Horizons Happy Home Paradise. This game, it feels and looks and even has a similar branding to Happy Home Designer. That was a standalone game for the Nintendo 3DS, where you had these challenges where you would design homes for particular characters in the game, villagers, and then I guess they would rate it, or you'd get a score somehow. So there's ways to improve your designs, there's ways to improve your score and things like that. It's my understanding on how the game works, and this is very much feels and looks like a sequel to that game. And this is very different from the core game on your main island. This is DLC where you go to a separate island and you have a whole different set of tasks and a whole spectrum of new things to worry about and to deal with. So that's really cool. And it's cool. I think they did the right thing by making this DLC instead of a standalone title, but when you really look at the details, it feels a lot like a standalone title. That's why I'm including it in the list here. And wow, can I just say for a second, that Animal Crossing Direct was yesterday, where they announced version 2.0 and this new DLC. And honestly, that completely blindsided me. I knew they were going to talk about Brewster and the Roost, but I didn't think there was going to be a whole lot more offered. This is a mega game. This is like a god tier update for the game. All of the updates combined that I thought we would ever see in Animal Crossing New Horizons are now coming in like a week. So it's like, where do they go from here? I mean, they're giving us like everything from every previous Animal Crossing game, it seems. Even from some of the side games like Happy Home Designer are coming home, and it's a really exciting time. I'm in deep into the end game of Animal Crossing. I'm just trying to wrap up a few different achievements. I really want to finish that freaking art wing of the museum, and so I'm always looking for Red. Is Red here today? That's all I need, just to see if Red is here. That's basically it. But now I have a lot more incentive to come back to the game, spend more time, which I'm a little ambivalent about, if I'm being honest, because it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's also not going to be great for time management, if you know what I mean. But whatever, man. More Animal Crossing. We knew it was coming someday. I'm just surprised that it came so soon. This much content anyway. So cool stuff. Next up, we've got let's see if we can full screen that. Can we full screen it? Let's do it. Yes. We've got Big Brain Academy Brain versus Brain. Now this game, I've actually never played a Big Brain Academy game before, which is kind of crazy because it's like right up my alley. I mean, this is like, you can't get a more Pestulon game than this right here. So I think I'm going to break that habit and finally try this game. It goes right in line with games like Picross, which I've enjoyed very much. So seems like mini games, little mini challenges, IQ based kind of memory games, things like that, math equations, things like that. So a game that you can play, do little things, get better at them, and then you can feel smarter. And then when you first get the game and you can see how bad you are at these mini games, you get to feel really dumb, and then you get to feel like Nintendo's making you much smarter by getting better at a few mini games. So hey, I'm into it. Nintendo, bring it on. Let's make me dumb then smart or whatever. I'm into it. Let's do it. So that concludes this list, guys. Again, what a crazy good year from Nintendo, and it wouldn't even surprise me if Nintendo stealth dropped some more amazing casual games this year before the year's over. I mean, we're in the last quarter, the year's wrapping up, but you know, if we've got another direct around the corner or something like that, who knows, we could get even more casual games this year before the year's up. How crazy would that be? I mean, we've already got 11 here. Am I gonna have to make another video to add on a few more? I don't know, but I would like to know what games of this list you guys enjoyed. I would like to know what third-party titles on the Nintendo Switch that are in that kind of casual game space that you guys enjoyed. I would really love to know that, because I've spent so much time on these first-party titles that I've sort of turned a blind eye to the third-party offerings. But there are always great third-party casual offerings on Nintendo platforms. So let me know what you're playing down in the comments below, and thanks for checking me out, guys. See you later.